So this is the Sabre 45. It's hole number 49. And today we're going to talk about the AC and DC systems in the boat. These three boxes contain the ship's battery. The engine batteries are outboard of each engine, and the generator battery is behind that engine start battery there.
It's the starboard side. And are those 12-volt batteries?
Everything in this boat is 12 volts.
These are 12-volt.
These are 12 volt. Well, they're paired 6-volt batteries.
Okay.
They make up 12.
So AGM, lead acid?
Yep, they're maintenance free. You shouldn't need to do anything. I would, on occasion, say when you do an engine service, I would check the tightness of the terminals on these batteries, just because heating and contracting can loosen them a little bit.
So to do that, we just unscrew these two screws and lift the top of the battery box off.
There they are.
You can see that those are paired together. Mm-hmm. Great.
So from the batteries, each bank of batteries goes to a remote switch. And what we saw up at the circuit breaker panel was the little red switch with the door on it. What that's doing is controlling this automatic switch. So when you hit the button up above, it pulls a plunger down and makes contact for these switches. These two operate together off of the one that's labeled house up above. And in an emergency situation, if you have low voltage, there may not be enough power to cause the solenoid to engage. And in that case, you can manually engage it. And the instructions are here on the front. But basically what you do is you turn it to the right. And what that's done is turned it off. So up above here, you can see the plunger is flush. And to engage the plunger, so it's off right now, to engage the plunger, turn it back to the left and you push it down manually and that'll engage it.
Great.
Above this starboard start battery is the emergency parallel switch. Here. This switch will connect both the start batteries together to help in starting an engine. This is also a remote switch. You can actuate it up at the 12-volt panel inside the boat. But again, if you're concerned about it or if it doesn't seem to be working, you can manually rotate that switch. So just like the ship's AC system, the DC system has two circuit breaker panels. One here in the engine room for items that are intended to be left on, and one in the cabin for items you can choose to turn on and off. The ship's main 12-volt DC is from the ship's batteries through its remote switch to this panel, and these items are intended to be on all the time, except for we usually keep the oil change pump off because there's no need to have power to it if you're not changing oil. This section of the 12-volt panel is ship's essential circuits, 12 volts. This is on, or the power to this panel is on all the time. You can't turn it off. So it's meant to control things like the bilge pumps and some essential circuits on the engines. These switches are meant so that you can't turn them off without a tool. You need to stick a screwdriver in that tiny slot right there. So they're meant to be on all the time.
And those are hardwired with a fuse, or are they through a breaker to the batteries?
They are hardwired through this fuse right here.
Great.
Right? So these two chargers are for all of the 12-volt system in the boat. This is the house bank battery charger, dedicated only to that. It's labeled battery charger on the circuit breaker panel here. This is battery charger 2, and this is for both the engine batteries and the generator battery.
And the inverter is over here.
The inverter's over there. It's an inverter only. It's not a charger. and it's intended to be just kept on all the time here. And you'll see that there are some things indicating it might be a charger, but the charger's been disabled. So the only thing you'll see is mains on. Boat's still unplugged, so we don't see that right now, but
Okay.
so this is the 12-volt panel inside the boat, and this has the switches to control the battery solenoids. And you can hear when I turn it off, you can hear the switches come off and on. That's actuating the solenoids in there, in the engine room. This also has a voltmeter, so you can monitor the batteries. And then all of these circuit breakers, you can choose to use as you need them. Here's the battery parallel that we talked about in the engine room. It's a remote parallel, so you just hit this switch and that'll engage the rotary switch in the engine room. So on this panel, this breaker here is for navigation lights. It's for the power to the navigation lights. The switch to turn them on is at the helm, so it just supplies power. The holding tank pump, this switch right here is for the overboard waste discharge. You do not want to turn this switch on when the through-hole valve is closed in the waste system, because that'll render the pump inoperable. So we want to leave that off. These two here are for the 12-volt supply to the refrigerator and the aft refrigerator. When you're at anchor or when you're boating, people commonly leave these on and the breakers on the AC panel for refrigerator. And what that does is if you leave them both on, if there's shore power present, they will automatically choose shore power over the 12-volt system. And then these would be just as backup. If you lose power, these would take over. When you're using the boat, your refrigerator is going to be full, so you want to just maintain it. I wouldn't leave these on when you're away from the boat for a long period of time, but while you're using it over a couple-week period, leaving everything on really helps to maintain power to the refrigerator. The switch here is the power to the wipers. There's a wiper controller at the helm, so this just supplies power to it. These two are for all the navigation equipment. And this is bridge supply. Also, this supplies power to the remaining switches at the helm. This is stereo power. Wash down pump is a salt water pump that feeds up to the bow. This boat has satellite dish also. So the circuit breakers that we turned on at the circuit breaker panel power items here at the bridge. So this is the wiper control unit. So turn the circuit breaker on and then turn this on. There we go. So wash cycle. And then the remaining ones are up here. This is a cockpit courtesy light. There are two of these switches, one in the cockpit and one here to turn on the lights. These are all bilge manual on switches if you want to turn them on. In the off position, they will be in automatic mode, so you don't need to worry about it. They're always in automatic mode, but you can turn manual on here. This is the engine room fan. This is the nav anchor, so the up position is navigation, and the down position is anchor light only, and this is the horn button.